After an arduous battle, Link and his comrades slew King Dodongo, but the beast was only ever intended as a distraction. The army of monsters had taken Hyrule Castle. Worse, after the dust had settled, Princess Zelda was nowhere to be found. Impa and Link searched the battlefield for any sign of her, but to no avail. Although the battle had been lost, Impa foresaw Link's importance to the coming war. She bestowed upon him a green tunic, the sign of the legendary hero. Link did not believe himself worthy of the honor, but he was determined to help Impa and her remaining soldiers locate Zelda. Weeks passed. Impa heard a rumor that a handful of soldiers were holding out against the monsters in Faron Woods. The leader of this resistance was supposedly a young woman. Impa dared to hope that this unknown woman was Zelda. Link and Impa decided to make their way to the forest by way of the Elden Caves, a path with its own dangers.
Welcome back to Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. Next on part 2 of my 100% Legend Mode walkthrough is the second mission. It doesn't seem like much to do right now, but it'll quickly pile up. Something I forgot to mention during the previous video is that after beating that mission, the first mission, a whole ton of stuff unlocks. Every other mode opens up, all characters that appear in Legend Mode unlock, except for one of them, oddly enough, and 2 new costumes for Link and Zelda unlock. These are their Era of the Wild costumes, which, as you may guess, are based off their most well-known looks from Breath of the Wild. I really like these costumes, but for my silly sake of this game's story, I won't be using anything other than the default costumes during Legend Mode. All the other modes are fair game, though. Before I get to talking about a couple of other things, let's get the items you can find in this mission out of the way. The heart container is for Impa and is found underneath a boulder right here. Link can find the heart piece and is the reward for capturing this keep, when enemies show up to take it, that is. The first Gold Skulltula is found here after getting 1000 KOs, and the second Gold Skulltula is found here. I'll say the specifics of that one when I get to it after the end of this mission. Check the description if you want a timestamp to jump to that point. Finally, there's also a sealed weapon that can be found here. Just capture this keep right here, and any character can pick it up. I'll say what weapon it is when I get to that as well. Something that I touched upon in the previous video but want to showcase fully right now is the character badges. So pardon me for interrupting the gameplay here, but anyway, you can find these in the bazaar from the character selection screen, the badge screens. Each character has their own badges to craft and needs various materials and rupees in order to do so. Each badge improves the character in some way and can actually really help out in certain situations, though some are more useful than others. As for suggested priority, you don't need to take it fully to heart, but my first priority is focusing on the combo badges. These help extend your weapon combos, and thus makes using those weapons more fun and less restrictive. After that, any of the attack badges can really help out, but the biggest ones to me are the ones for diminishing weak point gauges and for dealing damage against blocking enemies. That last one is a lot more helpful here than it was in previous versions, since you can actually deal killing blows against enemies that are blocking this time. Again though, all the attack badges are really helpful, but those are what I prioritize because of my playing style. Depending on how you play, you may prioritize the other ones. On the defense badges, the really helpful ones are really just the ones on the top half. Lets you have more potion uses, increases health recovery, and nullifies knockback against certain attacks. I like to focus on the knockback one because it's kinda annoying to have some of your combo moves interrupted by a mook just slapping you on the ass. The damage related ones sound like they might be useful, but they only work on missions that recommend certain elements, and outside of Legend mode there's not many missions that actually have those recommendations, so in the end you might not be using these much. On the next badge category, the assist ones, the ones I highly recommend are the top ones. They speed up the process of taking keeps, and that is immensely helpful. The rest of them are just extending the duration of item power-ups, and because of my playstyle I don't find these very useful. If you use items a lot though, be my guest. Getting at least the bronze badges for the item power-ups doesn't take much valuable resources at all. All that said and done, that's all I want to talk about with badges. Back to the mission, there's actually one thing I wanted to mention. You know all those materials that spawn on the battlefield after taking down some enemies? You don't actually have to collect them. Yeah. If you successfully win the mission, all materials get rounded up on the end tally screen for your totals, regardless of if you actually picked them up. Sounds a little pointless to have them stay on the battlefield like that? Sure. But with that information in mind, at least you won't be wasting time waiting for an enemy to die to get their materials. 1,000 KOs, so here's the first Gold Skulltula. Sheik, huh? Well, since Sheik's not available to switch to at the moment, let's get him covered. Sheik is a mysterious ninja of the Sheikah tribe who uses a harp to play magical songs to attack. The design of the harp is taken straight from Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword, and is said to be the very harp that the goddess Hylia herself used. While Sheik only has one weapon available, his attack style is rather unique. Enough talk, let's get right into it. And getting right into it, here's Sheik's normal attack string. Fairly flashy, uses kunais to slash enemies, and ends with a couple of wide-reaching attacks to clear out large groups of enemies. Getting into the strong combos, I'll leave C1 for last as it has a rather unique function, and each strong combo attack has a different element. The two are related. So with that said, C2 has Sheik send out a water cyclone that carries enemies along and into the air. It can be used as some sort of launcher, as you can continue attacking once the cyclone dissipates. C3 has Sheik send down a fiery rock to the ground. It's fairly damaging, but a bit difficult to aim unless you target the enemy. With C4, Sheik sends out a wave of electricity that launches enemies into the air. Since this can be dodge cancelled right after sending out the lightning, even when you haven't landed yet, it can be a nice juggle starter. C5 has Sheik teleport into the air and use darkness to plunge down into a single enemy. It's not great for groups of enemies. C6 has Sheik send out a wave of light energy all around him, and is a pretty good crowd clearer that is very damaging. I like to use that one a lot. So now to get into the meat of Sheik's moveset. Remember how each strong attack combo ends with a different element, and leaves a music note with an element right here? Well, the C1 actually changes depending on which elemental note you had there. As such, one of the most useful elements C1 can use is water. If not interrupted, this creates a damage barrier for Sheik that absorbs up to 3 hearts of damage. This is incredibly helpful and can even be refreshed while the barrier is still active by just doing Water C1 again. Incredibly helpful to keep your damage low for rankings. Fire C1 creates a fire seal that explodes after a short time, dealing massive damage. Incredibly helpful for giant boss weak point gauges and enemy captains if you can keep them within the seal. Lightning C1 creates a whirlwind around Sheik for a few seconds, damaging enemies with electricity and sends them up into the air. It can be used to start juggles, but since it actually sends enemies away from you, it's hard to take advantage of this. Dark C1 creates a black hole on the ground that sucks enemies in and slowly does damage. This is great for gathering groups of enemies together and just piling on the damage. Light C1 creates a field of light energy that steadily replenishes your special attack gauges, which can be really helpful since Sheik's special attack is fairly powerful and has a wide radius. As for C1 not powered by any elements, well, yeah. Overall, Sheik is a really powerful and versatile character, and with proper use of her elemental harp attacks, can make her nigh unstoppable. Back to the mission, we're about to approach the keep that has that sealed weapon. With the sealed weapon acquired, it's actually a new weapon for Link. It's the Magic Rod. Let's look at the moveset for this weapon real quick. The Magic Rod is a nice ranged weapon, loosely based off of the fire rods from official Zelda games. It uses the fire element and has many extended strong combo attacks. To start off, here's the basic attack string. Again, signifies that the weapon is long range right off the bat. Let's start off the strong attacks with C1. This can be charged. Uncharged C1 sends out a fire blast that travels away from Link a short distance. Holding the strong attack for a second or two before releasing creates a close-ranged explosion that can do some pretty decent damage to enemies right in front of you. Kinda risky to pull off though. C2 is a launcher like most others, though you need to work it a little differently. You can continue the launcher into a couple of other strong attacks that also gather up a small group of enemies into the air. I like to use this one as a juggle starter though. Just dodge cancel it right after the first attack and you can start a regular juggle. C3 transforms the rod into a giant axe. There's 3 strong attacks to this, which ends up being a nice crowd clearer in front of Link by the end. I end up using this one a lot, especially in the Wii U version since it sounded like it hit harder than the other attacks, but that's only because of how it sounded. Many of this weapon's other attacks are still very useful. C4 transforms the rod into some sort of gust bellows that spews out fire like a flamethrower. Again, there's 3 attacks to this, the second one launching enemies into the air and the third one doing finishing blows. I don't like to use this one much unless you're in an extremely crowded area, since the range is pretty short despite what it seems. C5 is a powerful AoE attack. A fire dragon is sent out from the ground and flies around catching enemies before doing a massive final attack as it flies off. Funny thing, I find the animation for this to be a bit jank compared to the Wii U version's animation, but it's alright. It still works the same. This is another useful attack that I use often since it's great for clearing keeps. And we're back. There's not much left I want to talk about, so I'll just stay silent for most of the rest of this video. Capturing this keep reveals a heart piece. I took the keep as Sheik, but only Link can open the chest. here's the heart container. Make sure you get this with Impa. With the end of the mission, let's cover the second Skulltula. You'll need to play on hard or hero difficulty, as usual, with Impa and the giant blade. All you need to do is to make this Skulltula appear is to make sure all bomb chews are 50% health or above before they detonate. It will show up here by the Crystal Cave, though you'll need the hookshot to reach it. You won't get the hookshot until a few more missions in, but by the time you can get this Skulltula you should already have the item. If you don't, how the hell did that happen?